it got to a point where I was so restrictive. I was taking croutons off of my salad, like not a single carb type thing. I remember there was a sorority event and we had like donuts, and I had one bite of the donut and something like switched in my brain where my body was like, we need this.
Donuts.
Like, not donuts, but like carbs. Like it was a nutrition that like, it was a nutrient that my body was like, holy shit, like we need this. And I think I had like 6 donuts and I was like, what is happening?
Welcome to the All-Star Athlete Podcast, your guide to mastering the mental game and reaching your full potential.
You said you've never done a podcast interview before.
Correct.
But you seem like you're pretty passionate about talking about mental performance, and you've been through a lot of things in your life. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, I would say that's true. I think, everyone's experience is different, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when I asked you if you were interested in doing this, you sounded pretty interested.
Yeah.
And the information that you gave me ahead of time was pretty in-depth about a bunch of different eating disorders and body compositions and sports, I guess you could say, that you've participated in. And you're still kind of trying to find your way, I guess, with different things. So what made you decide that you wanted to be here today?
Yeah, I think because it's something that I think about every single day, but I've never sat down and actually talked to anybody about it. But I have a lot of thoughts and feelings, and so I'm like, it'd be cool to talk to somebody who has an education in the realm.
Okay. So what kind of thoughts and feelings do you have every day?
Well, just every day when if you're working out every day, you're thinking about your workouts, you're thinking about your nutrition, you're thinking about how you look, you're thinking about how you feel, you're thinking how you used to look, you're thinking how you used to feel, you're thinking how you want to look, how you want to feel. And so, when you're in the fitness industry and you're passionate about fitness, I think your past with it is always part of your present in a way.
Yeah. Would you say that you take heavily into consideration what other people think of you, or are you only concerned about yourself?
I think I used to be, and now not so much. Not so much, yeah. But it took a while to get there, obviously.
Yeah. Did you work with anybody on that, or is that just kind of with age and experience comes not really caring about what other people think quite as much?
Yeah, definitely just getting older, more life experience. Didn't work with anyone on that, no.
Okay. Yeah, I've definitely mentioned to quite a few people recently, including some of my clients, that age and experience are kind of a wonderful thing. We're all getting older every day. That kind of sucks. But I mean, I try to look at things with a silver lining a lot of times. And I will say the one thing about getting older is that I care so much less now about what other people think or other people's opinions, or if I try something and it doesn't work. I used to beat myself up so much for that kind of stuff. And now that I'm getting older and I feel like I can feel my brain maturing, I guess.
100%, yeah.
And I'm just I don't care anymore. I'm just going to do this thing. And if other people don't like it, fuck them, whatever.
Yeah, I definitely feel like if you fall on your face enough and you get back up and you're okay, then the next time you fall on your face, it hurts a little less because you're going to get through it. And I think that's something that only time and experience can give you, for sure.
Yeah. One of my favorite, well, it's not really a saying, but one of my favorite definitions of the word confidence, because confidence can be defined many different ways. A lot of people have different definitions of the word confidence.
Right.
But for me, confidence means knowing that I'm going to be okay no matter what happens.
Yeah.
So I can try that new thing, and if it doesn't work, I'm going to be okay. I can go talk to that girl, and if she rejects me, guess what? It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
I can, whatever it is, I can have a job interview or get fired from a job or whatever it is. And I'm going to be okay because I've made it through everything else that I've been through so far in my life. So why shouldn't I be okay after this too?
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. I think that, like I said, you have to fail a certain amount of times where you teach yourself that you are going to be okay, right? Because you don't know until you go through it. And so, yeah, no, I like that definition of confidence. I think that, when you feel like you aren't going to be okay if you don't get the job, or you aren't going to be okay if the guy rejects you, or you aren't going to be okay if you try this thing and you're embarrassed, like that comes across kind of with that desperation aspect. And I think that vibe that you exude is different, and obviously that's the opposite of confidence.
Yeah.
I think for me, like when things really changed for me is I did a bit of solo traveling, and it changed my perspective on the world, on life, on people. But it also, I proved to myself that like I don't need anyone or anything, not only just for survival, but to make new friends in a foreign country that are older than you, that speak a different language than you, to figure out how to get to the doctor's office when you don't have a car and you don't know how does insurance work in a foreign country, like all these things. And I think when I came back from that, I was like, if I can navigate that here in the US where I'm comfortable and they speak my language and I understand, like there's nothing that I can't get through on my own. And I think that sort of independence is where my confidence comes from. Someone asked me that in a job interview. They're like, what makes you so confident? I was like, I just know that I got me. Like, I'm good. And that is something that I think that all young people should experience at an early age, for sure.
So I really like that definition of confidence.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say that the world traveling segment of your life was like a pivotal or transformative period for you?
Yeah, 100%. I think I left the country at a time where I was like, I need to like shock my system. I need something to change. I want my perspective to be impacted in a life-changing way. I was gone for 5 months by myself. I had $600 in my bank account when I left the country. I made it last, and I got things out of that trip that I was not expecting, and I think a lot of people that travel will say similar things. But when I got back, I knew that was something that I needed to go through, and that was going to change my life, and it did. And that's why at the time I was like making YouTube videos of my travels and TikToks and whatnot, because I come from a really small town, a town where people tend to stay in their bubble. Some people don't even leave for school, which is fine, to each their own. But, I wanted to show young people you don't have to be rich. You don't have to have a ton of travel experience. You don't have to, stay in these fancy resorts and this and that to get experience and to step outside of your comfort zone. And so, I had people message me and they're like, how did you do this? Like, I want to go on a trip by myself. And that's like the best feeling ever. And knowing that, that's the best decision that someone can make. So.
Okay. That's really cool that you had the confidence to do that and that you were able to share your journey and really learned a lot about yourself during that time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering if, since we're kind of a few minutes into our segment here,
mm-hmm.
if you could now sort of formally introduce yourself for our listeners, who you are, where you're from, and kind of what you're up to in life right now.
Yeah, so my name is Anna. Been living in San Diego for about 3 years. I'm from Northern California in a small town near Tahoe called Placerville. Went to school on the Central Coast, studied business, and now I'm in San Diego. I have a job in sales at a gym that I love. And I also work in the industry. And yeah, I'm kind of bebopping around San Diego, trying to figure out what I want to do with my life and just experimenting with every passion and interest that I have, trying to meet as many people as I can and find myself in this world.
Okay. Do you feel like you're still on that journey of finding yourself?
Yeah, definitely. I think, I was listening to a podcast with Gary Vee, and he was like, your 20s are for when you just try everything and fail at everything. You don't have a family, you don't have kids. There's no one you're responsible for but yourself. So just do everything and you'll figure out what sticks, what you like, what you don't like, and one thing will kind of lead to the next. And I think honestly in the last like 2 months, that's really, really like come true for me. And so I've kind of been focusing on that energy of like trying and everything I can while I can.
Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit about your background because you are evolving right now, as you just outlined, but previously you've already evolved a lot. You've been through a lot of different athletic pursuits, a lot of different body types, a lot of different diets, a lot of different mindsets probably. So growing up, you told me off the air that you were a competitive gymnast, but that you never really did anything with weightlifting.
Right.
You were just doing body weight, calisthenic kind of stuff. So talk to me a little bit about how your early training and athletic days kind of shaped your understanding of fitness in your body.
Yeah, for sure. So I think growing up as an athlete, you know, I didn't even know what a calorie was till I was like 15. I was training 3.5 to 4 hours a day, all body weight, all gymnastics. So, you know, the equation of energy expenditure and nutrition and all of that, it was out of sight, out of mind. And then when I quit gymnastics and I just kind of played high school sports, my lifestyle changed, my activity level changed, my diet got worse. And obviously there were physical changes that happened as a result of that. So I went back to gymnastics because I was like, yo, I fell out of shape. I don't like this. How do I fix this? Just go back to what you know. So I finished my senior year of gymnastics. And then once that was over, I was like, okay, I don't want to go back to that feeling of, you know, I'm out of shape. I've lost all this progress. Like, I got to figure out something. And then that's when I turned to the gym and the internet. The internet of gyms, if you will, the internet gym. And by that, I mean, you know, Instagram workouts, Googling how to lose weight, how many calories should I be eating, this, and that. And I think being a young girl completely on my own with this stereotype and these societal standards and trying to figure out how to fit in and all that, definitely went down like a rabbit hole. And that's how I got into weightlifting. It became like fun and exciting at first, learning all these new things. And then, yeah, I just kind of dove in. And
so let's back up a step here.
Yeah.
So you quit gymnastics. And you saw your body change for the first time.
Yeah, for sure.
So talk to me a little bit about how that impacted you mentally and emotionally.
Yeah, I think as a young athlete, looking in the mirror, I had a 6-pack. I set the pull-up record at my middle school. And then fast forward 12 months, you know, having more weight around my stomach or feeling like more tired going up the stairs. And I mean, I'm a teenager. Like, it's not that significant, but significant enough to be like, whoa, what's happening? This is unfamiliar. I'm uncomfortable. It was scary because my parents are not in the best shape. And I think I had like a fear of like, I want to make sure that I don't get to that point. And I saw myself going there. So it was like, whoa. And that's when I was like, I got to figure something out.
Okay. So when you were doing gymnastics and calisthenics, you were like 16% body fat or something like that? Or
no, so that was like after.
Or that was later.
Later, yeah. So I never did an in-body scan. I didn't weigh myself. I was just a gymnast. You know, you see gymnasts walking down the street and like you could tell they're a gymnast. And so people would ask me like, what sport do you play? And I'm like, gymnastics, because you could just tell that I did gymnastics.
Yeah. So you did gymnastics growing up and calisthenics, then you sort of transitioned out of that and you gained some weight.
Gained some weight, lost some confidence.
But when you gained that weight, you were probably still lean? Or was this like a body image thing, a body dysmorphia kind of thing? You weren't like fat, right?
Right, correct. No, it was just something that I was probably the only one who noticed and felt. But at the time, it was the end of the world. You know what I mean? So yeah, I didn't like gain like 50 pounds or anything. I just became less athletic, felt less athletic.
Yeah. And your parents were not the healthiest. And so you were kind of concerned that you were maybe heading down this road of being out of shape and unhealthy.
Exactly. It was like, if I am not training at an elite level, I'm going to be fat and I'm going to be healthy and I'm going to be that way forever. So it was like an all or nothing mindset, a left or right, a black or white. And that's where my mindset with fitness got, I think, off the rails.
Okay. So would you say it was largely your parents' state of health that motivated your activity and eating decisions? Or was it something else?
Honestly, to an extent, yeah. And then also just the way that I felt when I experienced those changes and not liking it, obviously.
Okay. Did your parents encourage you to participate in sports? Why is your lifestyle so different than theirs?
Yeah, I mean, my parents encouraged me to participate in everything. Instruments, sports, this, that. You know, my brother was swimming, I was doing gymnastics, and so they wanted me to be, you know, a healthy child. They wanted me to have hobbies and interests, but you know, my dad's a firefighter, my mom's a teacher. They're selfless people. They put others before themselves, so it's like they weren't taking time out of the day to go to the gym. They were taking their extra time to invest it in us, and it was a very selfless thing, but I think it had a negative impact on me in a way that they probably never assumed it would.
Okay. Are they still kind of unhealthy now, or have they found some balance in their lives?
They found some balance. They've gone through phases for sure of like extreme dieting and things like that. They've lost together, they've gained together, and you know, it's something that they're aware of, but I mean, at age 55, 60, their priority is not, you know, lifting weights every day. And they're also a different generation. I have to understand that. And if it's not a priority to them, that's okay. But that doesn't mean that I'm destined for what they chose, because I'm on my own path, my own journey, right?
Right. At some point during this journey of yours, you mentioned that things kind of started to turn a little bit unhealthy with food and tracking of food. Is that true?
Yeah.
Talk to me about that a little bit.
Yeah. So at first it was, I want to lose weight. I want to be in the best shape of my life before I go to college. How do I do that? Well, the internet says eat 1,200 calories a day. So what did I do? I downloaded a calorie tracking app and I ate 1,200 calories a day. But when I started going to the gym, the actual gym, I was used to training for 3.5 to 4 hours a day at practice. So I was in the gym for 2 hours thinking I was just like cutting it short. Like, oh, this is a short workout, 2 hours. Like I was only here 4 to 6, not 4 to 8, 8, you know what I mean? So that transition, I was completely on my own. I was navigating on my own. I didn't have a person to look at me and say, this is the right way to do it. It was completely self-research, planned, whatever. And so started tracking calories. I was lifeguarding. So I was in the sun all day, and then I would go to the gym and I was eating fruits, veggies, nuts, seeds, and meat. That's it. So paleo-based diet. And I remember there was a time where I was sitting in the lifeguard chair and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to fall asleep. I haven't eaten enough. And, I started to like doze off almost because I was just so hungry. And that I was like, whoa, this is like not good because people's lives were at stake. And so, that's one thing that stood out to me at that time period of like, I was really like putting myself through the ringer to hit this calorie goal and this like energy expenditure goal, which I chose based off of self-research.
Yeah. So you realized probably around that time that was unhealthy, I'm guessing.
Yes, but I also, that didn't stop me. And I think that didn't stop me. I knew it wasn't, I realized that it was gonna, I think I just thought that like, oh, this is what happens when you're like getting in shape. Like you're in a deficit, you're gonna be tired, like just fight through it and then just buckle up and keep going. Because again, I had no guidance.
Yeah. And how old were you at the time?
17, 18.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you were kind of just doing all your research basically on Instagram or the internet.
Yeah.
And following, advice of who knows who.
Yeah.
Super lean, in shape, Instagram influencers probably, or just like random internet advice.
Exactly. Yep.
So you weren't working with a coach. You weren't working with like a trainer. You weren't on a team or anything at this time. You were just trying to be like lean and in shape and you thought it was healthy.
Right.
Although ironically, you sort of went unhealthy, like off the other end of the scale.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. And did some things start happening with your health at that time, or was that later?
Yeah. So I lost like 10 pounds that summer, I think, before college. And then shortly after that, I lost my period. So like my body was in, fight or flight mode of like, look, we're obviously not in a position to grow a child if we can't even like take care of ourselves. Like your body's in starvation, like not starvation, that's an aggressive word, but your body's in survival mode, right? And I think my mindset was, I want to look like this. How do I look like this? Oh, Instagram says this, lift weights like this. And then I want to lose weight. How do I lose weight? Oh, the internet says eat like this. The internet says eat this many calories. And so I just took that and ran with it. And I think that's something I'm passionate about now, is that health and fitness shouldn't feel like punishment to your body. It shouldn't be, I'm eating this way and I'm training this way because I hate the way I look and I want to look something different. It should be, I'm training this way and I'm eating this way because I love myself and I want to fuel myself and I want to feel good and I want to celebrate what my body is capable of, rather than forcing yourself to shift into a form that maybe you're not meant to have or is unnatural and clearly unhealthy.
Yeah. So how long did that go on for, where you kind of followed the Instagram internet advice, where you were unhealthy and lost your period? And I think you mentioned earlier, you started losing hair.
I lost a lot of hair in college. Granted, there's other factors, stress and whatnot, but I mean, all of college, it's like I couldn't afford a personal trainer. I had no resources other than what was readily available to me literally on the internet. And that's so sad to me now, because I think about girls who just graduated high school or going into college and, they want to look a certain way, feel a certain way. And who's sitting them down and saying, look, don't do this, do this. You don't need to look like this. Don't do that. And so, yeah, I mean, my first year of college, I lost a ton of weight. I was down to 116 pounds, which is the lightest I've ever been, 16% body fat, no period. My hair was gone. My diet was perfect in my eyes.
1,200 calories.
1,200 calories, not a cheat meal, nothing. Everything was planned out. Everything was tracked. I was running 5 miles twice a week. So I was pretty lean. And when my friends would look at me, they'd look at my six pack, they'd be like, oh my God, you're so jacked, you're so in shape, you're so this. But I'm looking back, when I think back to myself at that time, I was exhausted. I would fall asleep in class. I was never a coffee drinker, and I had to start drinking coffee twice a day just to stay awake. Yeah, it was wild. And I went through all of that by myself.
Yeah. And how was your mental health at the time?
My mental health, so I lived in a dorm it was a 4-person dorm in college, and we had 8 girls in the dorm. So it was a lot. And it turned into a pretty toxic environment. So I stayed out of the dorm as much as possible. One of the ways I stayed out of the dorm was by going to the gym for 3 hours a day. So yeah, just overdid it, and it's all like a blur now, honestly, because I didn't know how bad it was at the time. I thought I was doing good things at the time, and it took a long time for me to get out of that and look back and be like, yeah, we're never going back there again.
Was there something in particular that triggered you or tripped in your mind, hey, this isn't actually healthy what I'm doing, even though I feel like it is?
Yeah, I think losing my period is one thing, because I went to the doctor. I was like, what's wrong with me? Is this a medical thing? And she was just like, your body is not healthy. And what do you mean my body's not healthy? I eat the cleanest diet. I work out 2 hours a day. I don't skip a single workout, even when my family's visiting in town. What do you mean I'm not healthy? And I think it got to a point where I was so restrictive. I was taking croutons off of my salad, not a single carb type thing. I remember there was a sorority event, and we had donuts, and I had one bite of the donut, and something switched in my brain where my body was like, we need this.
Donuts.
Like, not donuts, but like carbs. Like, it was a nutrition that, like, it was a nutrient that my body was like, holy shit, like, we need this. And I think I had like 6 donuts, and I was like, what is happening? And it felt like I just completely lost control. And that was definitely like where the eating started to get off, because I felt like there was 2 parts of my brain competing of like super strict this and that. And then there were times where it's like I completely lost control, and my body was like fighting for things that I had been depriving it of. And so that was like another chapter of me knowing it wasn't a good thing, but also not knowing how to fix it, how to get out of it. Or there was a time where I was like, there's no light at the end of the tunnel. I'm going to be thinking about food and having these internal battles about my body and food for the rest of my life. I was like, that's just how it's going to be.
Okay. So kind of speaking about that, I don't know if it was around this time or if it was later on, but you've experimented with almost every diet under the sun. Keto, paleo, macro tracking, different apps, like you've done all that. Yeah. Right? Looking back, what helped and what hurt of those things that you did, right? Because a big scope of this podcast is to help other people that might be going through similar issues to what you're going through. So what didn't help you and what did help you around, tracking and eating and dieting? Yeah,
I think one thing I learned from keto is that I think in general, just how my body responded to each diet. Paleo was super energetic. I think my digestion was really good. I was eating a lot of vegetables, a lot of fiber, all that. Keto, my body changed the fastest, obviously, as it does on a diet like keto. So one thing that worked is I learned what worked for my body, but I think overall, looking back at those like dieting times, the biggest thing that I learned, and I had to literally go through it as a young woman in diet culture and whatever, is that depriving your body of any single food or ingredient or nutrient forever is not a solution to anything. And that the key to balance is truly allowing everything, but just choosing the best things. And when you don't choose the best thing, that's okay. It doesn't have to turn into 7 donuts. You can eat a donut once a month and enjoy it and savor it, and know that your health and your body is not one single meal, and that your worth and your self-respect is not one single choice with food. It's, I love myself. I can eat everything I want whenever I want, but I choose these things not because I'm on a diet and I can't have these things, but because they make me feel the best. And when I walk away from that meal, I feel the best. And I do that because I love myself, not because I want to punish myself or change myself. And that mindset took like 3 years of struggle and trial and error and self-hate to get to. And I think that's kind of why I've navigated towards the fitness industry in my career and in my life, is because I want to help people understand that let's work out and let's eat healthy because we love ourselves, not because we hate ourselves. And especially with young women going through that transition of, I live with my parents in high school, to I'm on my own for the very first time in college, buying my own groceries and making my own food, to now I'm an adult and I have adult money, and how do I spend that to invest in myself the right way? Like, that process, I think nobody talked to me about that. Who's talking about it? You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. And that's a big scope of why I'm glad that you're here today and sharing your story, because I think it's important that these stories get shared, because to your point, nobody really talks about this stuff. There's not a ton of accounts talking about this kind of stuff. All we are really bombarded with is all the super skinny, super 6-pack, beautiful models, like perfect. Like if you had had an Instagram account. I mean, maybe you did have an Instagram account. It was probably perfectly curated with you smiling and posing and your six pack popping and your booty posing and all this kind of stuff. And like nobody would have had any idea that you had all these like mental struggles and emotional battles and that you had lost your period and that hair was falling. Like nobody would have known any of that.
They saw a six pack. They saw me skinny. I saw friends from high school like, oh my God, you look so good. And of course that felt amazing.
Yeah.
But they didn't see me, you know, doing all of the things that I had to do to get there that weren't good. And I also know that I wasn't the only one doing these things and feeling these things. And it was like, we were all, and when I say we, I mean college girls, young girls. We were all fronting this healthy lifestyle in the light, and so happy and positive and healthy. But I know in the dark there were so many of us that were impacted by social media standards and just the toxic consequences of the content that we were consuming on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. So it sounds like you were able to get rid of kind of that all or nothing mentality of not eating a single carb ever and then binging on like 6 to 7 donuts because your brain like flipped a switch and it's like, hey, we actually need this.
Yeah, so let's eat as much as we can right now so we never get it
Which
again.
is what happens when you go on these restrictive diets, which is why like they say it's like yo-yo dieting.
Exactly.
And why as a personal trainer, I often recommend to people like everything in moderation is okay. We're trying to be in a slight calorie deficit. It's okay if you go out on the weekends and have, actually, I forget, I think it was a few episodes ago, the episode with Nika Sedji. She has a terminology she uses. She calls it a treat meal instead of a cheat meal.
Okay.
Because cheat meal sounds like kind of negative, like, oh, I'm cheating on, like, just cheating in general kind of has like a negative.
Like you can't enjoy it.
Right, exactly. If you're cheating, it's like, oh, you know, I'm cheating on my diet, just like I'm cheating on my significant other or whatever. So she called them treat meals. And I was like, oh, that's really cool because it's like you're giving yourself a treat. It makes it seem more reasonable.
Right. I like that.
So that was one thing. But it's great that you were able to kind of reach this mentality of everything in moderation. But I think largely a lot of women, I'm going to say from probably 14 or 15, because I think a lot of this starts in like high school. Yeah. To probably early to mid 20s is a decade of time where women are coming into womanhood and they're susceptible to influence from other people, men and women. Exactly. Sort of negatively influencing them to look and be a certain way. Right. And when you have no guidance, a lot of women fall into a very similar trap to what you fell in of trying to look a certain way, but it's not really healthy. But then they're getting compliments from all kinds of different people, other women, and then men, just toxic, calling them fat when they're actually not. Yeah. It's this whole thing, right? Mm-hmm.
No, you worded that really well, where it's like, deep down, it's like, I know what I'm doing probably isn't healthy, but on the outside, it feels great. And people are saying all these things. And I think it's easy to fall into. And even somebody who doesn't go the route I did, where it's kind of that obsessive exercise mentality, and they're just living their life feeling like they're not worth anything because they don't look a certain way. There's that too. And I think something that changed for me is when I started to put on weight after going through this period of being very little, trying to be as small and tiny as possible. And I think I had this fear in the back of my head of, if I gain weight, my friends aren't going to like me anymore. If I gain weight, I'm not going to get invited to these parties. If I don't look like this person's going to stop hanging out with me. And it felt like, because of the standards that were set to me as a young woman, that opportunities in my life and everything was going to lessen and get worse if my body changed in a not good way. And I remember when I put on weight and I was like, whoa, I've gained like 6 pounds, but my friends are still my friends. I've gained another 6 pounds, But Joe next door still thinks I'm funny and I have a good personality. I've gained another 6 pounds, but I'm still going to this same functions and getting the same amount of, I'm still getting good grades. I'm still my body was changing, and all of these consequences that I made up in my head for that, they didn't happen. And all of a sudden I realized my value is not what I look like or my body. My friends, my family love me because of who I am and what I do and how I treat them. And I think as a woman coming to that realization and not only realizing it, but believing it and living it, of no matter what I look like, I am valuable and my friends love me and my family. I'm not going to lose everything if I gain weight. I'm not going to gain everything if I lose weight. And that was kind of what I came out of that experience with. And that's where I'm at now, where my fitness has taken, highs and lows, as it does. It's a journey. But whether I'm where I want to be or I'm not where I want to be, I say it's okay, because I know, who I am, what I'm worth, and I'm not going to lose all of these things because of the changes I'm going through. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. I'm glad that you were able to come to that realization.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like it's taken a few years, if not longer, to come to that realization, which is something that we talk about in the mental performance realm, if not philosophically at large, is that nothing happens overnight.
Nothing happens.
And anybody
overnight.
that's listening to this might be going through the same things that you were going through. And just because you listen to this doesn't mean that you're going to wake up tomorrow and be a different person.
Right.
But it is valuable to know that other people went through these things and that it's not a forever thing.
Yeah.
And it is valuable to know that you are still going to be the same person and your friends are still going to like you, and Joe next door still thinks you're going to be funny and probably still cute, kind of thing, right? Who knows who Joe is in this story. But a question that I have for you is, and I wonder if this comes up, because you're still in great shape right now. You look beautiful.
Thanks.
But a lot of people struggle comparing themselves to previous versions of themselves.
100%.
You probably still struggle, if I had to guess, from some form of body image or body dysmorphia, because you're in great shape, but you're definitely a higher body fat percentage than you were before, which isn't to say that that's a bad thing. You're healthier now.
Right.
But do you compare yourself to your old self, and how do you handle that when it comes up, if so?
Every single day, whether I try to or not, because I think when you look a certain way and you feel a certain way, I will walk out of a workout saying, oh, I used to work out for twice as long. I'll walk out of the Stairmaster and be like, oh, that used to be so much easier. Or I will do a circuit and be like, oh, I used to feel so much more athletic doing this. And I think you're a former athlete too, right? And it's I have to accept, I am never going to feel like a 15-year-old competitive gymnast ever again. And that's okay. I might not ever get to that level of backflips and flexibility and that combination of cardio and strength. I might never get there. But what I have to realize is that I am healthy, I am strong, and the balance that I have now with my work and my social life and my fitness is so much more valuable than that feeling of peak perfection athleticism. And now that I've experienced both, I will choose where I'm at every day over that. If I get to have this piece of, I can take a day off and I still love myself and I still give my grace. I'm sure, have you ever been through that where it's oh my God, I skipped a day. I'm a piece of shit. I'm going to get fat. I'm lazy. It's no, you're not. You're going to be okay. And I think it's really easy to walk out of every workout being that wasn't as good as it could be or wasn't great as it used to be. But then I have to take a step back and be I feel my best. I have the most amount of energy I've ever had. I'm not stressed in the gym. I don't feel guilty. That's a big one. I don't feel guilty. Yeah, I think the comparison it's always going to be there. But I think keeping the positive voices at the forefront of your mind, those negative voices are always going to be in there. You just got to outweigh them with the good ones.
What advice would you give to young women who are feeling completely lost, like you may have been at some point during your journey? So what advice would you give to young women who are feeling completely lost in the gym or intimidated by fitness or diet culture?
That's a good question. I would say it's a journey. Every single person I think on this planet has days where they hate who they are and days where they love who they are, and that's okay. I would say don't do it alone. I think that's the biggest thing. I think looking back, I wish I had someone doing what I'm doing now, which is shedding light on it. And don't do it alone. Get a mentor who can help you do it in a healthy way. Educate yourself. Actually, not on Instagram, not on the internet. Like, understand what, a healthy diet is, not because you saw a magazine in the checkout aisle, but because you talked to somebody like you who is a professional and like knows how to go through these things. I also know that that's like might not be possible based on resources, but I think if it feels wrong and it feels negative and it feels unhealthy, it probably is. And by that I mean, if you feel like you're eating too little, you probably are. If you feel like, oh, maybe I shouldn't, run an extra mile to punish myself, if that feels bad, it probably is. I would just say continue to focus on things that make you feel good because you love yourself and you're celebrating your health and what your body's capable of, rather than doing whatever you can to force yourself to fit into somebody else's image of good.
Yeah, I like what you said there. And you mentioned this earlier about exercising, I think, and dieting because you love yourself.
Yeah.
Not because you hate yourself.
Yeah.
For example, a lot of people go to the gym, which is great that they go to the gym, and I don't want to take anything away from that, but a lot of people hate how they look. Mm-hmm. So they go to the gym because they hate how they look.
Yeah.
As opposed to celebrating and enjoying the fact that they can move and that they love how they look and they love their body and they want to take care of their body.
Right.
And the same thing is true for eating a healthy diet, right? Don't restrict yourself to just eating romaine lettuce and taking your croutons off and scraping all of the cheese off too, because you hate how you look and you want to be leaner. Right? Celebrate yourself, enjoy how you look and feel, and you're going to feel a lot better. And yeah, resources are hard to come by when you're younger. Social media at large is honestly extremely toxic.
Yeah.
And it's caused a lot of body dysmorphia and mental health issues in young people, men and women.
Right.
But yeah, to your point, I mean, would you say, so your advice was sort of, if it feels wrong, don't do it. When you were doing that stuff when you were younger, did it feel wrong or did it feel right?
It felt like I didn't have an option. And I think it felt wrong in the way of unsustainable, where I knew I couldn't do it forever. But what choice did I have? If I don't do this, then I'm going to end up like this. So yeah, I think it definitely felt wrong. But I also felt like I had to do it, and so I did it.
Well, I'm glad that you're here today to share your story, because these are the kind of stories that we don't hear about.
Yeah.
So that's a big scope of this podcast at large, is really to share information like this.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of previous guests have come onto the show and they've expressed this kind of dissatisfaction or sadness in that our whole episode is around like negativity. And it's not intentionally around negativity, but it's just that what we're talking about has to do with mental performance and mental struggles at large within the realm of athletics. And pretty much everybody has gone through something. Yeah. A slight slightly different variation of their story.
Right.
Men are slightly different than women, are slightly different than gymnasts and football players, but everybody's gone through something, has been like the level playing field, no pun intended, like everybody's gone through something.
Yeah.
So we're not sitting here talking about everything being sunshine and unicorns and daisies, because there are these negative things that have happened.
Yeah. And we keep them in the dark.
We keep them in the dark. We don't talk about them because we don't want to put that on our perfectly curated social media. We don't want other people to think negatively about us.
We're not proud of these things or these thoughts or these feelings, but had someone else talked about them to us when we were going through this time, maybe things would have been different for us.
Right. So hopefully we're helping to change the narrative here is really a big scope of this podcast. So I thank you for sharing that. As far as how you've changed and what you do, off the air, you mentioned ideas like manifestation, vision boards, practicing gratitude. So I'm guessing these are all things that you do pretty regularly. How do these practices help anchor you when your motivation or confidence takes a hit?
When your motivation or confidence takes a hit, I think...
Or just how do you use those things in general?
Yeah, for sure. I think vision board is huge. Even not a vision board, like I think sometimes with vision boards you think of like, oh, the future, this, I want this car and in this house, whatever. I think of it more as like a mood board or like a vibe board. I literally created some, put them on my wall. I look at them every day, and it's a collection of images of the lifestyle that I want to live. And I think when we keep our mind on that wavelength of these are the things I want to focus on, maybe you have a picture of weights or a green juice or laying in the park or a journal or friends on a rooftop, things like that. It's been proven that when you focus on those things, like they tend to come to you more. So I don't know. I'm a big believer in like the vision board, the mood board, to keep your mindset on the right track. I think one big thing I've been focusing on lately is this question of like, what if it all works out, right? I think as human beings, we tend to fear the worst. Like, oh, what if I go on this podcast and I have nothing valuable to say? What if I, start this new job and I suck? What if, my fitness falls off and I lose motivation? But like, what are all these negative thoughts? What if for every single negative thought we had a, what if I go on this podcast and I have the best conversation and I feel great? What if I get this job and I absolutely kill it and I get a promotion, right? And I think it's easy to stay in that negative track, and your mind isn't naturally going to want to be in a positive one. You have to train it to do that. And I think that's what vision board and manifesting is all about. And then as far as gratitude goes, I think with the guilt of skipping a leg day, like skipping a workout or coming out of the gym feeling like you didn't perform how you wanted to, you can compare yourself to your past and say, oh, that was a shitty workout, I did not do a good job. Or you can say, wow, I am so lucky I got to move my body today. I am so lucky I have a space to go into to stretch and connect with my body and move and come out feeling a little bit better than when I came in. And again, that's just shifting your mindset onto that positive track. And then you leave and you're like, yeah, maybe I didn't perform how I wanted to perform, but that's okay. And I feel good and I'm a good person. So that would be my answer to that.
Okay. That was really well said. I really like the idea of, first of all, kind of the self-fulfilling prophecy, which is just to say like, if you want to have that job or you want to live in that place or you want to own that home or you want to look a certain way or achieve a certain level of education, if you believe that you can accomplish that, you're going to be a lot more likely to prove to yourself and go out and actually do that.
Exactly.
I think, and this is a very common theme that comes up on almost every single podcast episode. It's a famous saying by Henry Ford, whether you believe you can or you can't, you're right.
Yeah.
If you believe that you're going to accomplish something, you're going to be a lot more likely to act in a way that is going to allow you to achieve that.
Yeah.
And then you're basically proving yourself right.
Yeah.
If you believe that you can't achieve something, or like you were saying, if you are going to go on this podcast and not have anything valuable to say, or start that new job and you're going to suck at it. If you believe that, you're going to act in a way that, or you're a lot more likely to act in a way that is going to lead you to that outcome.
Right.
And then you're going to prove, therefore, and sort of say to yourself like, well, I knew I wasn't, good enough or whatever. So that's super important. The other mindset shift that you were talking about that I really like was shifting that mindset to that of gratitude rather than being like a victim of something.
Yeah.
You have ownership.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, maybe I'm not in as great a shape as I would like to be, or maybe I didn't hit that workout as hard as I wanted to, but I'm still grateful that I was able to get something in today.
Yeah.
Maybe I didn't eat as healthy on vacation as I wanted to, but I still made better choices than I could have otherwise.
Exactly.
So you're still owning that and really kind of just painting a silver lining around it rather than focusing on the negativity, I guess.
I think the more that you focus on the good things, the more good things that will happen. And it's not easy. It's definitely not easy, but it's a practice that becomes easier over time, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I'm wondering, are there any questions that you have for me about anything or anything that you thought we would talk about today that you wanted to share about your journey, about mindset, about anything?
I'm just curious, as a professional in the industry, especially in the realm of psychology, kind of like hearing my story of being like lost and alone, navigating fitness, which is supposed to be a healthy thing, into such an unhealthy thing. Like, what would you have wished I had done differently? Or like, what are your thoughts on that? Or like, where would you have come in and changed the course? Because in my mind, I'm only here with this mindset and where I am right now because I went through that. Is there a way to get to where I'm at with the balance and the grace and like the mindset and the self-love? Is there a way to get to this place without going through all the shit that you had to go through? Does that make sense?
That does make sense, and that's a really interesting question. And I'm not sure I know the answer to that.
Like, how do we get these young people to love themselves and celebrate their physical health and be happy without going through the trenches to whether it's sports performance and peaking and coming off and all that? Like, how do we get the next generation of people into this mindset without the consequences to get there?
Well, I would say two things to that. The first is kind of a two-part answer: support and education.
Yeah.
In other words, two things that you didn't really have when you were younger that could have helped avoid what you went through. If you'd had support from like a therapist, which I don't know if you were seeing a therapist or not, or a mental performance coach, or if there were more readily available resources they could even be on social media.
Yeah.
But if they were just more readily available, if people knew about like younger people, or if it was taught in school, for example, here's, resources and so forth. And there's probably like health education classes and stuff in high school, but like who's really paying attention?
Yeah.
So some of that has to do with like brain development.
Right.
A lot of this may have been available, but we just didn't really want to hear it, because a 16-year-old girl might be more concerned with looking skinny and lean and having the six pack than being, for example, 24% body fat and being much healthier in terms of her weight. She might know that, but brain development may steer her in another way because she's worried about what the boys will think and what all the girls will think and blah, blah, blah. Or maybe she's in a sport. And that's another thing too, not to ramble, but sometimes there's a big raging debate actually amongst women in particular, some men, but women in particular, about sport performance and how are women supposed to look. Because there's so much of a social stigma around looking a certain way and being feminine and beautiful and slender and this and that. But that's at odds with athletic performance.
Right.
You look at some of the best women athletes of all time, like Serena Williams, for example, has often been very criticized for looking masculine.
Yeah.
But that's the best body type to perform at an optimal level in tennis.
Right.
So it's a very complicated situation, right? There's a lot of different factors at play here. So that's my first thought. The other thing I was going to say is that a lot of people like you and like me, I haven't really shared too much of my story on this podcast, but a lot of people arrive at who they are as a person because of what they went through.
Right.
So to answer your question, you asked, is there a way to sort of arrive at who you are right now without having gone through that? I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I am who I am because of all the hardships that I've went through.
Yeah.
For example, I had a really negative experience with a soccer coach in high school that really crushed me and really ruined my enjoyment of being a soccer player, which was my favorite sport my whole life. I took that negative experience with that coach in high school and ended up publishing a paper in grad school about that experience.
Wow.
So I wouldn't have, had I not had that negative experience, I couldn't have published that paper. A lot of people are abused or neglected or go through really toxic negative relationships, for example, when they're younger, and they grow up to be very strong, independent individuals, and maybe they wouldn't have gotten there had they not been sort of forged through the fire of their negative experiences. So that's why I kind of started this by saying, I don't know. I wish there was a way that we could all become the best versions of ourselves without having gone through a bunch of negative shit. But I don't really know if it's possible, to be honest.
Yeah. I think that might circle back to like the advice I would give to a young girl or a young boy, even trying to just figure out who they are, and fitness related or not, is it's like there is a light at the end of the tunnel. What you're going through right now, you won't always be going through. And I think of life now as in seasons and chapters. And instead of saying, oh, like, you know, I'm not making any money, I'm not going to make money, or I don't like my friends, or I don't like where I live, add a right now to the end of that. I don't like where I live right now. I'm not making a lot of money right now. I'm not in the best shape right now. And when you add that temporary factor to it, it kind of shifts your mindset again into, but that doesn't mean I won't be in 4 months from now, in 6 months from now. That doesn't mean I won't love the city I live in a year from now. And I think we all have to go through the hardships. I think they do shape us into who we are. And I think I wish that I could go back and give myself that piece of advice of, it's just right now and you're going to be okay. And this is going to put you in the position to live a life that you used to dream about, and you're going to love it every day. And how amazing would it be if we could all be young people and have that version of ourselves come down out of the sky and say that to us? But we can't, and we just have to go through it. But that's why we're here today, because maybe that's what we're doing.
Yeah. Sharing our experiences with the younger generation. Because seriously, because we've gone through these things and other people are going to have to go through these things. But I think if we soften it or you know, provide some education, some support, whoever that is, whether that's a friend, whether that's a mental performance coach, whether that's some resource, you know, I would love to manifest that. You know, someday I am, you know, at the forefront of mental performance coaching for younger people so that people don't have to go through this stuff, because Lord knows with everything that the world is going through these days, or certainly here in this country, but I'm sure around the world, people suffer from very similar issues, right? I went through a lot of things when I was younger, even though I did see therapy and I had, you know, a loving family and I had friends and stuff. Like, I feel like every young person feels like they need support, even if they are supported. They need more support. So, yeah, I really thank you for taking the time to share your experiences and talk about how you would have done things differently and your advice for younger girls, because I think it is super important that we help people. And that's one of my missions as a personal trainer, as a coach, I'm very selfless, as I think you are, to be here. You probably maybe learned that from your parents, but just pay it forward. You know, we know how hard it was to go through that shit.
Yeah.
I wouldn't wish that upon my worst enemies to go through that terrible stuff, right? So it's like, let's talk about it. Let's share it. Let's get it out there. It's not embarrassing. It's not taboo. There's nothing to be ashamed of. Mm-hmm. Like, let's just all get collectively better and help each other.
Yeah. And sharing your story is empowering others because you never know who's going to resonate with it. I do have one question for you. This is just because I'm genuinely curious. But with the comparing yourself to a previous version of yourself, like, what's your advice as a mental performance coach on that?
What's the specific question, though?
Like, if you have a client that comes up to you and you say, like, hey, like, I'm into working out, but it's a really negative experience because every time I do it, I just am disappointed because I'm comparing myself to a previous version of myself. How would you navigate that conversation?
Great question. And that happens all the time as a personal trainer.
Really?
The way that I answer that question is, let's not compare ourselves to who we were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, mm-hmm. or even 1 year ago. Mm-hmm. Let's just compare ourselves to who we were yesterday.
Yeah.
Because I firmly believe in having a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset on the other hand. And a growth mindset says, as long as I am putting in the effort and trying and seeking help and not afraid to fail and learn something through my experiences, as long as I can get a little bit better than I was just yesterday, then that's all that we can really control, and that's all that really matters. Because many of us were former athletes, and all of us are not as young as we were before, yesterday, a year ago, right? It's just the cycle of life is that every day we're a little bit older than we were yesterday. So it doesn't do us any good to compare ourselves to previous versions of ourselves that may have been better looking or in better shape or previous to a car accident that we were in or an ACL, tear and subsequent surgery that we had. Right. Or whatever. I've got a lot of female clients, for example, that compare themselves to before they had children. Yeah. And I'm like, listen to the words that are coming out of your mouth. Yeah. You've had 3 children and you're 30 years older than who you used to be. Right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, don't compare yourself to 20-year-old you or that woman over there that's, young and in better shape than you are. That serves you no purpose. Yeah. So just focus on yourself first and foremost. Don't compare yourself to other people and focus on who you are now and who you were yesterday. And that's, I think, the best way to approach that question. Yeah. I like that. It reminds me of a clip I saw, and this famous guy was basically asked, where does your confidence come from? And he wasn't in the best shape ever, and they're like, where does your confidence come from? And he's like, look, this is my body right now, and I can't snap my fingers and change it. Do I want to wake up today and have a sad, self-hating day and show up to this party and not have fun because I don't like how I look? My body isn't going to change today. I might as well have fun. And that's something I like to think about too, is it's like, are you really going to let how your body looks and feels today affect your enjoyment of your life today? And I don't know, that was just one little nugget, but I don't think I said it the same way he did, but it's a valid point though. I understand what you were saying. You know what I'm saying? We could wake up and hate ourselves by how we look because we don't look the same that we used to, but is that really going to make our day any better? Exactly. Whether you love or hate how you look, your body's not going to change that day, so you might as well love yourself and carry yourself in a self-confident way and just appreciate where you're at now and know that you're doing the little things to get to where you want to go. Yeah. I like what you said earlier about and one word that I use, I forget exactly what you said, but I say I'm not good enough yet. Right. Or I'm not in the shape that I want to be yet. Yeah. So it's that little qualifier. What did you say earlier? Right now. So similar kind of idea. I'm not in the kind of shape that I want to be right now. Yeah. But it just changes the meaning of the sentence so much, and it gives yourself so much more grace. And it also has like a very positive, like forward facing vibe to it. As if I'm going in that direction. I'm not where I want to be right now, as many of us are not. Like, I wish I lived in a better apartment, or I wish I lived in a bigger house, or I wish I made more money or whatever. But if all I did was spent my days being sad about what my current position in life was, then I would just hate my life and I would be sad all the time.
Yeah.
I can still have my long-term goals and aspire to be in better shape or have a better relationship or make more money or live somewhere else, but I can still enjoy who I am right now too, and where I am, because where I am right now, old Justin was wishing that I would be here.
100%.
So I can't take that for granted.
Yeah. Definitely. I think about that a lot too. It's easy to be like, oh, like, I don't have this. I need this. It's going to take me so long to get this. And I'm like, take a step back. Look where you live. Look who you live with. Remember when you were 10 and you're like, I can't wait to be an adult and drive a car. I can't wait to live with my best friend and go out to dinner whenever we want. Like, what? Like, that used to be something that I couldn't wait for, and that was so exciting, and now that's just like something I do every day that I just take for granted, where it's like I don't know, working a job that you choose, like not having homework, like things like that. It's
seriously,
it's like
things we used to wish for,
especially
the homework part.
Yes, dude. But yeah, I mean fitness, I think overall your health and fitness is that it should feel healthy, and your fitness is not black and white. And I think it's easy for it to become a toxic thing, but I think we just, my wish for people who had gone through what I'd gone through or would go through what I go through is that your health and fitness, it should feel healthy. It should feel good. It should be a celebration of who you are and what you're capable of, and your body and your skills and your discipline and all these things. And the moment it feels unhealthy, it probably is getting unhealthy. And I think keeping that mindset of like, I'm working on it and we're getting to the right place is important.
Very well said. Well, I want to thank you for taking the time to be here, first and foremost, and sharing your thoughts and experiences and expertise with other people. I think that's very important and very valuable. As we get close to wrapping up here, is there any last words that you wanted to say, or?
No, man, just keep living life. At the end of the day, it's not that bad. We're pretty lucky.
Very lucky.
And
yeah,
I just hope that we all stick together in this life. I'm just kidding. No, I don't have anything else to say. But thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
Of course.
Yeah, this is cool.
All right.
Well, I like hearing my voice.
It's cool, huh? It's cool. I like the setup. It's very cool for sure.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we'll do another episode in the future.
Yeah.
But thank you for being here. I wish you best of luck on your continued journey with your health and your fitness and your mentality.
Yeah.
And if you have any questions, let me know.
Okay.
Feel free to reach out to either you, well, you know me personally, but anybody that's listening, reach out to myself on Instagram. If anybody has any questions for Anna about anything, what's your Instagram?
Anna.marie.repetto.
Okay. Do you have any other platforms that you share stuff on that you'd be comfortable sharing?
My username's the same on all, so.
Mostly Instagram, but if
Mostly
you
Instagram,
look her up on other platforms, she'll be there and probably happy to answer questions about any of this kind of stuff.
Sure.
If anybody wants to reach out, feel free to follow us. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. We're both more than happy to help.
Yeah, we're all in this together.
We are. All right, we'll sign off there. Have a good rest of your day. I'll talk to you later, okay?